can even watch back, giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back, giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back, giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back, giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
S-I-C-K,
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. CF Montreal Talk.
Here's the chance. They've got the goal. Absolutely incredible. Cameron Porter delivers the the goal to send Montreal Impact into the CONCACAF Champions League semi-final.
The sickest CF Montreal podcast. Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. Playground. Your premier gaming destination. Complete Striker. And Innov Sport.
Collaborer avec Innov Sport, une compagnie d'ici afin de dynamiser l'apprentissage et la pratique du sport pour tous et partout.
Les différents produits permettent de rester actif tout en développant sa confiance, son autonomie et sa technique. Des produits efficaces, progressifs et personnalisés avec le logo de votre école.
Innov Sport, pour tous et partout.
It's gonna be sick.
And yes, the Sick Podcast, CF Montreal Talk, is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group as well as Playground. And it's also brought to you by Bittt at Tibi. They launched their new Ultra Lager, a refreshing, thirst-quenching beer, perfect for the hot summer days. Only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, 4% ABV per can, available in a pack of 6 and 12 in grocery stores all around the province of Quebec. It's ultra light and ultra refreshing. It's been a while since we brought you a Sick Podcast, CF Montreal Talk. And of course, I was in Spain for about a month. And during that time, for about a couple of weeks, there was an international break and CF Montreal was off, but now we are back right down to business because, of course, they played on Saturday night when they hosted Charlotte FC in what was a huge 2-1 win for CF Montreal. We bring in, for the very first time from the Canadian Press and the Ball is Round podcast, Elias Grigoriadis. You know, I did this with him before we went on, and I got it right every single time. Elias Grigoriadis. Now I got it. Okay, perfect.
You nailed it.
Ticanis?
Kala. You're doing
Kala,
great.
right.
Happy to be here.
If all is well, we'll be going to Greece for the very first time in July of 2025.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yes, one of my best friend's sons is getting married to a beautiful Greek girl.
And, congratulations.
And she's going to, she wants to have the wedding in her mom's hometown. So we will be on our way to Lefkada.
Wow.
In July of
awesome.
2025.
It's going to be nice and warm, too.
Yes. And you know where to find me. I'll be at the beach. All right. Okay. I'll also be at the wedding, too, by the way. All right. Big win for CF Montreal on the weekend. We can't stress how big a win it was, especially coming off of, a 4-1 loss in Cincinnati. And the week before that, a 5-0 loss at home in front of their fans, where the confidence was fragile. It was way low, and they had to get back to their winning ways. Without further ado, Elias, why don't we bring up what was the starting 11, and we'll also bring up the subs right now for CF Montreal, who started with Sirois in goal, a 3-man back line with Corbo in between, Campbell on his right, and Alvarez on his left. And, of course, this precipitated by the fact that Joel Waterman was hurt when he was with the Canadians men's national team at one of their camps during an international friendly. He came back, and he wasn't ready to go. In front of the back line, Piet and Saliba were the 2 6s. Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy at right wing back, Raheem Edwards at left wing back, and in behind Joseph Martinez were Clark and Duke, a 3-4-2-1 for Laurent Courtois' side. Before we get to the subs, I want to keep this up if we can and get your impressions on this starting 11.
Wasn't too surprised, just given what we've seen from Laurent Courtois after the closing of the transfer window, and without the availability of Joel Waterman, it was either going to be Alvarez or Corbo in the middle. And given that Alvarez is naturally left-footed, it makes sense that this is the back line. So no, I wasn't too surprised. In fact, this was, if you asked me to pick 11 players for this game, it probably would have gone something like this. Joseph Martinez as the lone striker, making those runs in behind is not necessarily his strong suit, as we saw during the game. So that can, leave room for competition based on what Laurent Courtois wants of his player up top. But this looks to be the go-to 11 from Laurent Courtois. Now you add in Joel Waterman, who's fit, but anyone else who's not, fit, if you talk about Joaquin Sosa, you talk about Lassi Lapalainen, those aren't necessarily players that will immediately compete for starting jobs given the performances of the players they're competing against.
I'm so happy that Alvarez is a starter again, because a couple of months back, like, he showed us some really good things. As a matter of fact, on a couple of occasions, I thought he was their best player on the field, and he was starting to make noise. And of course, I reported that Monterrey was interested in his services, Mexican side. And obviously that didn't materialize in the summer. But here's a player that, if he keeps on going the way he's going, this is a player that fits into their project, and one day they'll be able to sell at a huge profit, which of course has been their goal and pretty much their mission statement over the last couple of years. You said this is Laurent Courtois starting 11. I'm going to take it a step further. I think this is Corey Ray starting 11 too, because Ray was instrumental in the acquisitions of Clark and Marshall Ruddy. It's he who pushed for them. It's he who was the architect. It's he who pulled the trigger. The deals were made, and I think that these are players that they obviously want to play. Ray wants to play them. Laurent Courtois said a couple of weeks ago, after the loss against Cincinnati, because of some players that we have to play. I'm not saying he's forced to play them, but I'm saying that, there had to have been a discussion here, and maybe one, maybe two, maybe several absolutely want to see Clark and Marshall Ruddy on the field. I'll say this, not because Clark scored the first goal, and by the way, a sequence in which, they could have scored the goal 2 or 3 times, and the keeper for Charlotte made some great saves. I really liked Caden Clark on the weekend. I really, really liked him. He looked more comfortable than he has looked since he joined the team. He was more offensive. He was more dangerous. He had a very, very high percentage for his passes. I think it was over 90%. And I think he and Bryce Duke were CF Montreal's best players on the weekend. I have to tell you as well, it's one of the games where I like Saliba as well. Out of all the games he's played this season, it was a game where I liked him a lot. I thought he made some great passes, one with his left foot, like basically no look, and changed the direction of the field. There was another one, a lob pass that came in, but he also, he was making some really good, smart plays. I thought Saliba had a really good game. Those were the 3 players that I thought. Clark, Duke, to a little bit of a lesser degree, but also very effective, was Saliba. Those are the ones that stood out. I'd love to have your impressions. What do you think?
Well, I think you can't talk about this game without talking about Caden Clark and Bryce Duke together. They've known each other since they were kids in the Barcelona Residency Academy. They, were very clearly excited to play with one another. In every media availability where they're asked about the relationship, there's a little smile that creeps in. It's always great playing with your friends, playing with people you grew up with. There was this instant, chemistry that you could tell that they knew where each other were. They were looking for one another. And the second you have your attacking players not just aware of one another, but actively looking to create combinations, especially if these 2 players who are by trade, number 10 attacking midfielders, players who like playing in that ambiguous half space. The second they start looking for each other and combining, you've struck gold. It just has to be done on a consistent basis now. But all signs are, if this is the baseline that you're setting for your 2 attacking midfielders, then it's very promising going forward, because this team is not going to win on star power alone. It's going to win by committee. So these players have to develop these relationships. I want to also point out, George Campbell was phenomenal. At the beginning of the season, he was a rock star, arguably the best on-ball defender on the team, and he had a little bit of a dip in form. Saw him lose his spot. He fought back. He fought back to get in the starting 11. Wasn't convincing. Was back out of the 11, and then it kind of went roller coaster. Games like this are what keeps him in the starting 11, or at least makes Laurent Courtois' choice that much more difficult if and when Joel Waterman is fit again.
Yeah, so, I could see that, and I echo those sentiments as well. What I will tell you is this. I had an opinion early on when CF Montreal acquired Jaquil Marshall-Rutty, and I know that some teams in Europe like to see him either as a right wing back or a right back. And I have to tell you, we haven't seen him as a right back. We've seen him as a right wing back, of course, replacing Juan, who was traded at that right wing back position. But I have to tell you, Elias, I can't tell you that I'm overly impressed at him at right wing back. He's a young player. He's a 2004 born. He's shown some really good things in the past. Obviously, he's nowhere near his prime. I believe he can continue to show some good things in the future, but I don't see him there. I see him as a box-to-box. I always have. I think I always will. I see him as an 8. They haven't done that yet. They have him a right wing back. I don't like him at right wing back. Yeah, there's a couple of 1-2s with Saliba. They feed off each other. I have not seen him take a guy on one-on-one, either with sheer outspeed or with footwork and creativity. He tries to cross some balls into the box every now and then if he's able to get there, but I think he's really not as effective as he would be as a box-to-box. Now, we haven't seen him as a box-to-box yet, but I will tell you right now, he has not blown me away at the right wing back position, Elias. Not at all.
I honestly, if given a full off season and a full training camp for him to really get into it, there is an interesting profile there. I don't think physically he's at that level yet. He could very well develop into someone who can keep up with the physicality of it. But you look at someone like even Nathan Saliba, who is his age, in terms of an athleticism standpoint, they're on different levels. Nathan Saliba, when it comes to 50-50 balls, when it comes to tackles, stuff like that, is much, much more present. Jaquil Marsh-Rudy is, again, he's still relatively skinny. He's 5'8", and he's quick. He's shifty. So there is definitely room for him in that midfield if that's the route they want to go with. But he has to put some weight on first. As far as him getting forward, I agree with you. I think that he didn't really do enough to get forward. What I do like, especially from someone who is still finding his footing in the team, is he had, whether it was him or the coaching staff, but there was the wherewithal to say, tonight is not your night in terms of getting forward, getting into those advanced positions, getting those crosses in like Juan would do. So what we wanted you to do instead is completely lock down that right-hand side. And him and George Campbell together, nothing got through. There was the free kick that led to the goal was on their side. The free kick was a disaster in coverage that, you can't really pin on Campbell and Brewed together. It was not really their marking assignments, but that's a foul on the side there. That's just defending, right? That happens. But from a purely defensive perspective, nothing got through that side. So if you're in a situation like this where you're going, Raheem Edwards is getting all this joy, Caden Clark is getting all this joy on the left-hand side, finding space in behind, and you're not, then you have to make sure that you're good for it on the other side of the ball, and they were. So, yeah, I'd love to see him get more involved, and I think that will come as his relationship with Nathan Saliba, as his relationship with Bryce, as that relationship with the right-hand side gets better. Because, again, Raheem Edwards has had the whole season to kind of integrate himself, right?
Yeah.
You saw the same thing with Tom Pierce, right? He did get into some good spots, but at the end of the day, you can tell that there's still not that instant understanding, and that will come.
Let's take a look at who the subs were available for Laurent Courtois on the weekend. Wanyama, Breza, Pierce, Yankov, Opoku, Ibrahim, Vilsain, Kokaro, and Bugai. The subs that came in were Pierce for Clark, Yankov for Saliba, Vilsain for Duke, Kokaro for Martinez, Bugai for Marshall Ruddy. Out of all the subs, what I thought was really interesting was when Saliba came out at the 81st minute with an injury, CF Montreal chose to bring on Yankov and actually drop Caden Clark back a little bit instead of bringing on Wanyama, who, as you see, is someone who obviously has had that role before Saliba actually took over for him. And earlier this morning, and we'll see if we have those images, and if we do, I sent them over to Shane Gaumont. Do we have the images of Wanyama in conversation with Laurent Courtois? So this is courtesy of our buddy Sid Fawot of Cannes Football Club, who was at the training this morning. And once the training was over, you see Courtois and Wanyama sitting down and they're talking. And who knows what they were talking about. But I guess we shouldn't be surprised if Wanyama was disappointed that he didn't come on in that situation. I never met a player who was happy when he's not playing. And Courtois trying to explain it to him. Were you surprised that he didn't come on? I guess we shouldn't be because he hasn't played very much in the last year. But what did you make of that?
I'll do one better. Not only did Caden Clark take his spot when Nathan Saliba came off, but when Caden Clark came off, Laurent Courtois opted to invert Raheem Edwards' and play in that midfield role for the last 5-10 minutes,
Yeah.
and have Tom Pierce play as wingback. So
Correct.
He's putting a wingback 6 rather than including Wanyama. So I honestly think that at this point,
it's over.
It's over, right? There's
no
no two ways
turning back.
about it.
Yeah.
There's no way to sugarcoat it. The fact that, you know, I saw those images, you know, right before the show as well. Seeing that seems that it's almost like an amicable breakup. Again, we don't know what was said. We don't know what's going on in terms of their relationship. They haven't really spoken about it in the media. I don't think we'll get a post-mortem situation like we did last year with Wanyama and Losada. I don't think that'll happen. But I think it's very clear that they're both on the same page that, you know, you can train, you can stay fit. It will help you look for another club, but your time in Montreal is up. And the fact that he's taking the time to sit with him shows that maybe this is on somewhat good terms. I don't think any player that's getting benched the way he is will ever be fully on good terms with their manager, because why would you?
Yeah.
But the fact that they're actively talking, whereas, you know, Wanyama and Losada, it was a completely icy relationship according to Wanyama. At least this means that there's some level of communication, which means that, you know, maybe Courtois is reaching out and whoever's trying to reach out and keep this relationship at least somewhat amicable.
All right, let's go to the timeline if we can, so we can show at what minutes the goals were scored and who was carded. Caden Clark, of course, at the 23rd minute, put CF Montreal up by a score of 1-0 when there were a couple of stops that were made off of Clark and off of Joseph Martinez, and then Clark jumps on a rebound and is able to roof it. And then a real nice pass from Edwards to Duke, and you see Duke 3 minutes later take a shot that ricochets off of a Charlotte player and ends up going in. CF Montreal up by a score of 2-0. And then it's Ream who narrows the lead to 2-1 for Charlotte. They go into halftime with CF Montreal up by a score of 2-1. At halftime, of course, once again, Nacho Piatti was honored, and he was going up on the Wall of Fame. And I think we have a picture of Piatti, if we can, with his kids. Do we? And if so, we bring it up. We don't have that picture. No, we don't have that picture. Just we'll try and get it. But look, all right, we'll try and get it. But Piatti was honored going up on the Wall of Fame alongside several other former Montreal Impact greats. And it was nice, especially where you had a chance. Piatti, you know, had a chance to take some pictures and give autographs, and that was really cool. It was nice. There were a few things that were missing. I didn't see the owner of the team there. I know that his Bologna had a game earlier in the day. Usually when you honor a player that's going up on the Wall of Fame, it's usually a big deal, and the owner would be there. Of course, he owns another team. We get that. And by the way, maybe he was there. I don't think he was, because they showed him at the Bologna game earlier in the day, and I didn't see him, not even on one occasion. I did see Piatti in the owner's loge, and I did not see the owner. So that was unfortunate. And if he would have been there, you would have think that he would have been at field level with him, and he was not. That's a little bit unfortunate. I'd like to see something else done in terms of the Wall of Fame other than just the names in a certain section, and actually they light up a little bit. I'd like to see something else, but anyway, it's okay. What they did, what they had to do, they honored a player who fully deserved it. And so that's that. Later on in the game, and this was interesting, the timing. So CF Montreal is up by a score of 2-1, and you see the collectif, their flares start going to the point where it started smelling up the entire stadium, and I've never seen the flares quite like this. Do we have those images? Look at this. At one point, you know, there was a corner kick for CF Montreal. Nobody can see. And the keeper for Charlotte looked over at the referee and said, no, look, you got to stop this. I mean, look, it's getting worse and worse. And the referee stopped it. And Caden Clark at one point was telling the fans, let's go, give us more of an applause. Jules Anthony Vilsain did the same. But right before these flares went off, the collective were holding up banners voicing their disenchantment, and they want the impact back. This is not going away, folks. They really want the impact back. And they put up something on the weekend on social media, if I could read it. September 14, 2024. Today, the collective Impact Montreal took action to express its dissatisfaction with the current situation. Our frustration stems from several factors. One, the lack of attention given to the return of the club's true identity, the Montreal Impact. They're satisfied with quietly putting the name on their collar of the jersey, sprinkling a few references here and there, thinking it will be enough to keep us happy. But the reality is quite different. We are not fooled, and our crest continues to be tarnished by the bland soulless, and emotionless name that is CF Montreal. Two, the glaring lack of ambition from a club that for far too long has been trying to sell us a so-called sporting plan that aims at best for a playoff qualification. Add this to the disappointing performances highlighting the deep disengagement of several players who clearly have no intention of fighting for the badge. Three, a club that treats its supporters like mere customers, despite the growing wave of members who have announced that they will not be renewing their subscriptions. President Gabriel Gervais persists in claiming that everything is fine by stating that 1,000 people have already placed their deposits and are ready to replace them for next season. This blatant disregard for the fans is outrageous, as they are essentially being told that they are nothing more than statistics. And four, the situation coincides with the announcement from the 127 Montreal group, which has decided not to return next year. Formed around the love for a club that is no longer reciprocated, their decision is commendable. We would like to thank them for the past 14 years spent singing with us. However, the fight is not over, and we continue the fight for the return of the Impact. Consider this action a clear message to the front office. A club that abandons its supporter base has no value. Collectif Impact Montreal. You know, Elias, it's a story that isn't going away. It's a story that you would think the management staff and everyone's, affiliated with CF Montreal wants to go away, but it's not. And if an organization really belongs to its fans, just turn back and do it. I mean, it's probably too late, but there's also a term that it's never too late. What do you think? It's never going to go away, Elias.
No, it won't. It won't. And I think for as long as there will be a CF Montreal, there will be people who want the Impact back. And that's, like you said, that will be a constant forever, right? There's only so much that results can do. I think that, during the 2022 season when it was beautiful football and that Nancy team was at the height of, their quality, were those requests a little bit quieter? Sure, but that's because there was quality on the field. So now not only do they not see their club anymore, but they also don't see a club that's willing to play for them, or players are not willing to play for them. I feel like that's rubbing salt in the wound. So it's understandable, right? You lose 9-1 over the last two games when you're supposedly in a playoff spot with, let's be honest here, a team that on paper should be making the playoffs. If you look at the quality that they have on the field, that is, I feel like that's not a hot take saying it. Should at the very least be in the fight for maybe not top four, whatever, hosting or having home field advantage, but 6th, 7th, that's not unreasonable to ask. So there's 100%, a reason to feel like you've been slighted. And if I'm a season ticket holder that's in the supporter section every single week that, has missed a handful of games over the last decade, then I am entitled to have a club that represents not just, Montreal soccer, but soccer in Quebec as a whole, to actively push to promote the best of us. So, I thought for a second that the smoke was maybe some kind of malfunction, and that because they've got smoke at all the games, right? They've got flares at all the games. So I it didn't stop. I was like, oh my god, did something go wrong? Did they, for whatever reason, there's some kind of malfunction? No. And then you saw the banners and everything like that, and it turned out to be a larger message.
You don't want to lose these fans, though. I got to tell you, like, you can say what you want about the collective Impact, but like, they add ambiance to the stadium. Like, I went with a buddy, Danny, who I think he said it was his second game ever. He hadn't been in a while. And one of the first things he said to me was, Tony, you know what? These fans are really bringing a great atmosphere and ambiance to the game. And if they weren't here, it obviously wouldn't be the same. And they're not the only group, of course, because 1642 Montreal on the other side with the ringing of the bell, and my buddy Terry DeMonte and his wife Jess, who had a chance to ring it twice on the weekend. I say hello to them. But, look, I don't know. At one part of me says, do you want your fans to make decisions for you and or your fan base? And so probably not. The other part of me says there's a lot of people that really want Impact back, and you haven't given them anything to really be happy about or all that much over the last couple of years. Give it to them if you can. I think your partners will be okay. But then again, that's the answer. I don't know. They deal with their partners. I don't. I think the partners would be okay from going from CF Montreal to Montreal Impact. But maybe one of the reasons why they made the decision was maybe the Montreal Impact name came with a lot of negativity over poor performances over the past couple of years and a few mishaps off the field that maybe they decided to change it. I don't know. Right. I don't know what happens in those discussions and where they are vis-a-vis with their partners. I know they've done a real good job of adding partners over the past year. I think that's something that Gabriel Gervais and his staff do really, really well. And that's that. Now I want to get to Laurent Courtois if I can. After the game, I expected him to be a lot more enthusiastic, a lot more happy, like weight of the world off your shoulders. You're finally winning. It's their 5th game that they won in the last 6 months. I mean, it's been difficult. The last couple of games, they were outscored 9-1, and it looked like the team was fragile. Their confidence was fragile. But he talked about, managing games a little bit better. He talked about the group was a little bit naive. He talked about certain situations, and he was very low key. Maybe that's the way you should be. I was a little bit surprised though, because he wasn't overly excited with the win. I thought he would have been. I don't know what you thought about Courtois at the end of the game. You were there. You were in the post-game presser. You had a chance to ask him questions. What do you think?
He definitely looked like someone whose shoulders were significantly lighter. That's definitely the vibe you got. He was cracking jokes in the presser, and he usually has a tongue-in-cheek approach to certain questions, right? And he's got those, quick little one-word answers that'll, maybe generate a little bit of a giggle. But it felt like in the post-game presser, it was just someone's like, we finally got it, right? And it's kind of this monkey off the back type thing where even Samuel Piette talked about it, where after Tim Ream scored, you had an amazing first half hour. You were dominating everything. It seemed like one-way traffic, and then one goof up and it's a 1-goal game going into halftime. We've seen this a million times before with Montreal. And so even, Piette was talking about how, shit, here we go again. Yeah. Those were his exact words. Yeah. And so the fact that not only did they close out the game, but they handled it arguably better than they've handled any lead this season in terms of limiting chances. And not only did they just not only just park the bus and reject every attack, they actively held the ball. They were playing out of possession in the 60, 70, 80th minute. Even when it got to 90 minutes, then they you said, okay, let's shut it all down. But they were playing their game long into the second half, which is something that we also haven't seen in a while. So I think Laurent Courtois, from just an overall performance, it's not like they held on for dear life for this 2-1 win, and they conceded like 14 chances, and Jonathan Siwa was Superman again, and they hit 4 posts. No, that was just a very well managed result. I think that's why he seemed so at peace almost, because there haven't been that many well managed results. Even the wins have come, either by the skin of your teeth or you almost oops your way into it.
What a difference a win makes. And the game wasn't over when it happened, but there are images making their way through social media at one point, and I think it's when the flares were going off. Piette and Courtois exchanged like a few words, and Piette, I think, gave him a tap on the back, and you saw Laurent Courtois smile and laugh back. And what a difference a win makes. Samuel Piette at the end of the game talked about team building exercise. He found that the group was needed to do some regrouping, and they had the foot golf tournament on Thursday. They had gone karting as well during the week, and he found that it's exactly what the group needed. And it's funny he says so because, and I have to say this, I've been saying over the past week or so that there's a division in the team. There were cliques in the locker room. There were cliques with players, and it even manifested itself to cliques within the coaching staff. And I mentioned that the Italian coaches formed a group, and Courtois and Sauvry formed a group, and then there was Sima and Eddie Sabrango. And I'm bringing this up because it's something very important that I want to address today. And in a conversation I had with Nilton George on my radio show, Le Forum on BPM Sports, Monday to Friday from 10 a.m. to noon, a couple of days ago on Friday, I told Nilton about this division and the cliques even within the coaching staff. And I was talking about the fact that not everyone was on the same page. And I went as far as saying that I don't think Laurent Sima and Laurent Courtois are to invite to the same party. So I want to bring this up, that after the game, I saw Laurent Sima as we were both leaving the stadium at the same time, and he wanted to talk to me, and I gladly accepted. So we started talking, and he said to me, he said, "Look, Tony, I want to talk to you." And I said, "Sure, no problem, Laurent. What's up?" And he said, "I believe in freedom of speech, liberty of expression, but not when something is totally false." And I said, "Sure, go ahead." And he said, "I get along with everybody. I have this club in my heart, and I want to let you know that I get along with everyone." And I said, "I'm happy to hear that, Laurent, but I just hope that you know that I said what I said, not because I wanted to stir the pot or I wanted to raise some kind of whatever or just to be negative. I said what I said because I get information from people, and what I came out with is information that I got. So am I telling you that information is right? It's not always going to be right, I would imagine. I like my batting percentage, by the way, but it's not always going to be right. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I'll go on the air and I'll say what you just told me." And so he said, "Okay, I understand." And he said, "Yes, I want to let everyone know that I get along with everyone, and I have this club in my heart." So that comes from Laurent Sima. And look, Laurent wanted me to put that out there, and I'm definitely going to put that out there. So I said what I said a couple of days ago, and now I could come out and say that Laurent has confronted me about it, and he has said what he has said. And just so that we can try and reach as many people as possible, because I could tell it was something that was important to him and it was bothering him, I'll go back on my radio show tomorrow. And I know that Max Truman is going to be a collaborator of mine at around 10:20 a.m. or so. And I'll bring that up, courtesy for the sake of our French-speaking listeners and viewers. And I'll bring that up again. So Laurent Sima wanting to dismiss that there's a clique or that there's a difference of opinion. And he says, "I like everybody, and this team is is tattooed in my heart," basically. It's done. The message is out there, right? Okay. Tant mieux, as they say en français, right? Exactly. Tant mieux. Look, I have no doubt that Laurent Courtois loves this club. And I have no doubt that Laurent Sima loves this club. And I have no doubt that Laurent Sima loves this city. And so that's that. Look, they're all going to be better off for it if they're all going to be on the same page. There's no doubt about it. This was a big win because it's incredible. But look at the standings. Mathieu Charon of the 1642 Montreal, I believe, is the one who put up this graphic of where CF Montreal are in the standings, how many points they're out, and who they'll play the rest of the way. Look at this. They have a 9% chance of making the playoffs, but they have the easiest schedule listed here. You need 9 points at home, and you need 1 win away, says Mathieu. So look at where they are. Toronto, 36 points. DC, 33 points. That's the top 9. 8 and 9 play the play-in. Atlanta has 31 points. Philadelphia and Montreal have 30. Atlanta, Philadelphia, and Montreal have played the same amount of games. Chicago is 1 point behind Montreal. So is Nashville. And New England are 3 points behind Montreal. Montreal have looks to be the easiest schedule. They'll play at home. Chicago, San Jose, and New York City FC. And on the road this Wednesday in New England. And then later on in the season in Atlanta and in Charlotte. I don't disagree with the fact that I think they have the easiest schedule of all the teams. And they have a game in hand on DC. But man, these next couple of games in particular, are they important or what? Wednesday night in New England versus a team that smoked them 5-0 in Montreal 3 weeks ago. And then on Saturday, they're going to host the Chicago Fire. These are the two biggest games of the season.
Absolutely. And you include the San Jose game that's right after that, also at home. You win at least 2 of those 3 games. It puts you in a much less stressful position, because at the end of the day, you look at decision day, look at that last game of the season, that's New York City FC. New York City FC all time is like 12-5-2 against Montreal. It's not a quality difference, it's a psychological difference. It's just one of those teams that has your number, right? So you go and you have all these other teams that not only are not in amazing form, but they're also teams you can actively take points away from that are in the playoff race. And it's always like this in the Eastern Conference for some reason. It feels like nobody wants to make the play-in. It happened. Same thing happened last year where everybody was dropping points. And no matter how poorly Montreal did down the stretch, other teams kept them in the playoffs by just dropping points themselves.
Correct.
So now Montreal, all they have to do is beat very, very beatable teams. Because at the end of the day, you don't beat Chicago at home in a, let's face it, in a playoff atmosphere. You don't beat San Jose at home in a playoff atmosphere. You don't deserve to make the playoffs.
Well, you're obviously right. They absolutely have to win their games at home and more. They absolutely have to beat Chicago and San Jose, which are 2 very winnable games, especially since Chicago, you were up 3-1 in Chicago. You lost that game. I mean, this should be revenge written all over it, because you know that the game in New England on turf on Wednesday and the game versus Atlanta and Charlotte near the end of the year, those are not going to be easy. Take a look at where Charlotte is and Atlanta is and New England is in the standings. Those are not going to be easy games because, once again, direct confrontations, right? These are no longer 3-point games. These are 6-point games. But if you win on Wednesday in New England, wow, you've made things extremely interesting. And it's incredible. 5 wins in their last 6 months. They're 3 points out of a play-in spot with a game in hand. But it just goes to show you that, unfortunately, right now, the MLS is a league of the haves and the have-nots. You have one tier, which are playoff, and the other ones, which are all basically grouped together, and anything can happen. It almost seems like there's no middle class. There's an upper class, there's a lower class, and in the middle, there's not really much of it right now. Okay. Before we break away here, because it's a short week with the game in Wednesday in New England, do you expect the players who came off the bench or who didn't get any minutes to actually start on Wednesday, so that the players who started on the weekend, several of them, can actually take some time off and then start again next week on Saturday in front of their fans? Or do you expect them to go with the same starting 11?
I don't think there's going to be too much rotation. Remember, they just got 2 weeks off, right? They have not been going every week. This will be now. This is crunch time now. But again, there's also another week off later, just before the end of the season. So they have another week off ahead of them. So I wouldn't be surprised if Laurent Courtois goes, bear down. This is my 11, or this is my 12 or 13, right? These are my guys that are playing. These are starting, and you're going to be logging big minutes. The thing is, now you also have to take into consideration is this is Foxborough. Nobody likes playing not in Foxborough, but on Gillette Stadium. That is the worst surface in the league.
It's like playing on concrete with a green carpet on top of it.
I feel like playing on concrete would probably be better for your joints. But that's the thing now, because you have all these players that are injury prone. You've got, Joseph Martinez, Matthias Koch, especially in the forward core, Martinez, Vilsain, and even Opoku, who's coming off of significant injuries.
Sanusi has to be asking himself what went wrong. Like, why is he not playing? Like, he's got 6 goals.
I think Sanusi Ibrahim will get the start, because I think at this point you're playing on the road. It's not necessarily a smash and grab type game, but you are definitely going to need moments. And Sanusi Ibrahim has delivered just that.
And for Vilsain, who's had a couple of injuries this season, as much as I'd like to see him get the playing time. And by the way,
that's the last place I want to see.
By the way, Raheem Edwards and Yankov both should have given him the ball on 2 great runs that he made. They could have had a chance to seal the game there on Saturday night. They made life difficult for themselves, where Charlotte could have actually tied it up like in stoppage time. But he made some really good runs and never got the ball. It's too bad. But as much as I'd like to see him get the start, you'd have to ask yourself if playing on turf would be the best thing right now for him. But you know what? I don't know how his body feels. Only he knows. He looked pretty good to me on Saturday, by the way. But anyway, we'll have to, once again, Suzuki's got to be, Sanusi's got to be asking himself, what's going on with me? It really. But look, this was a big win on the weekend, right? Let's give credit where credit was due. This was a big win. It was an important win. They had to win. Like a loss, they could have been doomed. Like they would have lost that game. It could have definitely been over.
I think that would have called it for sure.
That could have been the nail in the coffin. And you know what? They're living to see another day, and that's good. Why don't we, fittingly, we have the picture now of Piatti being honored at halftime, going on the Wall of Fame. And there you have it, a picture with team president Gabriel Gervais and obviously his kids. Thank you, Nacho.
That video tribute with all the former players. Oh, that took me back.
It was
those are formative years for me, right? I was, the 2013 to 2016. I was, 15, 16, 17, 18. So those were formative footballing years for me. And that was Dominic Gaudreau was one of my favorite players. I saw him, I was like, oh my God, wow, that was.
It gave us a lot of emotions, and and Nacho once again was just a fabulous player to watch.
He's a class act,
really a class act from the beginning right to the end, and which was kind of cool to see him again on Saturday night. Elias, big game once again in ending on Wednesday night. 1-X or 2. What's your result for Wednesday in New England?
I think they're going in there with a bit more confidence. I think they're at least going to come out with a point.
Wow,
I think they're going there for a draw.
That would be
big. They're going to get it. New England, again, Montreal's been that team that if you're struggling, you're playing Montreal, they're kind of your slump buster.
Yeah.
But I don't know. This feels like a bit more confidence.
I hope they win, because if they win, it sets the table for Saturday night. And, more wins, more and more fans will be believing. And it's not fun to talk about a team when they're losing more often than not. So big win on the weekend. Hopefully it's a big win on Wednesday. And then we can go back on Saturday. Every time they score. I love that music, by the way. It's catchy. I went to bed on Saturday night and the music kept off going off in my head at like 2, 3
o'clock.
That's how they get you. You're right. Thanks so much, Elias, for doing this. Once again, Elias Grigoriadis from the Canadian Press and from the Ball is Round podcast. We'll talk to you soon. If all goes well, we'll be back on Thursday with another edition of the Sick Podcast CF Montreal Talk. In the meantime, follow us on Twitter at SickPod CF MTL and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's absolutely free. Also want to thank some of our partners and some of our sponsors: Playground, Energy Transportation Group, Bittt Tibi, and also Manta Sleep. Check them out, Manta Sleep, and go to them. It's a mask designed for optimal sleep. It's adjustable. It's personalized. It's very, very comfortable for 100% blackout. No light coming in. It'll help you sleep. And use code SICKCFMTL for 10% off. Once again at mantasleep.com. For Shane Gaumont and Master Control and Elias Grigoriadis, I'm Tony Marinaro. Thanks for watching the Sick Podcast CF Montreal Talk. Ciao for now.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast CF Montreal Talk on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.